Welcome into the lounge presented by DraftKings. I'm Garrett Downing, and I'm joined today by Clifton Brown. We are here in Indianapolis for the NFL Scouting Combine. Things really kicked off here today. We had a chance to hear from General Manager Eric DeCosta, head coach Jesse Minter, as well as several other GMs and head coaches around the league. This is going to be the hub of the NFL universe over the course of the next week. Workouts start a little bit later in the week, but early on in this week is really where we get a chance to hear from the decision makers in the NFL about their teams, what their focus is this offseason, and we got some important news updates from both DeCosta and new head coach Jesse Minter today. So those full press conferences are posted for you in their entirety on our app, our website, our YouTube channel. You can also listen to them in the Ravens Press Pass podcast feed that you should subscribe to as well. So, Cliff, let's just start here. After hearing from Eric and Jesse, what was the big thing that stood out in your mind?
Well, there's a lot of things, but obviously Tyler Linderbaum is a subject that everyone came into the combine. Will the Ravens be able to re-sign him? Eric DeCosta has made it clear that the Ravens want to re-sign Tyler Linderbaum. Tyler Linderbaum has made it clear that he loves playing for the Ravens and would definitely like to stay here. However, contract has not been negotiated yet, and free agency is approaching, and he is going to be a player who gets a lot of interest if he hits free agency. Some consider him the number one free agent on the market. So we don't really know after today what's going to happen. But, yes, that to me is the thing that, is most on Ravens fans' mind. That and obviously Lamar Jackson's contract, which Eric, again, wants to keep private. So we'll see what happens. But I think there's two things going on. That and then, of course, the players who we're going to be looking at this week.
Well, let's just stick on Linderbaum for a little bit because that stood out to me. And DeCosta shared some news on that front in saying that the Ravens have made him a market-setting offer to make him the highest-paid center in the NFL. And that's indicative of their feelings about wanting to keep him. And we've all kind of said over the course of the last year, as there's been talk about trying to work out an extension with him, that the framework is kind of there in that who the last highest-paid center was, Cam Jurgens for the Philadelphia Eagles. And so the way these market deals work is that the next guy up gets the biggest deal. And so that would be the expectation with Linderbaum. And DeCosta basically confirmed that in saying they've made him a market-setting deal. Now, the question, of course, becomes how much are you resetting the market? And that's probably why no deal has been struck at this point. They've made an offer, but it comes down to whether Linderbaum is going to accept that. I came away after hearing from DeCosta like, it's clear the Ravens want him. They want to make him the highest paid center. That's not exactly breaking news, but it's only confirmed it. But it's not a guarantee. And Linderbaum has that offer on the table, but where it goes from here, it still remains to be seen.
Right, and then if it gets to free agency, then the market could change. I mean, it's a market-setting deal until someone else makes you a better offer. Then that deal is a market-setting deal. So Tyler Linderbaum's going to have many options if he wants to explore the free agent market. But the Ravens are going to try and keep him. They're already in the process, have been in the process of trying to keep him for a long time. So it gets down to what general managers often talk about, that you can't always keep all the players you want. So hopefully for the Ravens, this will be a situation where they do end up keeping Linderbaum. I remember last year with Ronnie Stanley, a lot of people thought that Ronnie Stanley was going to go elsewhere. He certainly could have gone elsewhere if he had wanted to. But I think the fact that the Ravens are a great organization that Tyler Linderbaum wants to play for, has enjoyed playing for, works in the Ravens' favor. So will it be enough to keep him? We won't know until either the deal is signed or he goes elsewhere. But, yes, that is something that right now I think is the biggest, cloud hanging over the Ravens that will either be sunshiny or rainy, depending on how it turns out.
The Ronnie example is a pretty good one going back to last year because that was the big topic, one of the big topics coming out of the press conferences here at the Combine last year. And we were talking at that time, is it going to happen? Is it not? It seems like he might be headed for free agency. And the Ravens ultimately ended up getting that deal done right on the eve of free agency before Ronnie actually tested the market. Of course, the Ravens hope to work out a similar situation with Linderbaum this year. And sometimes the Combine can kind of be an inflection point for teams, things around the league in terms of moving towards action, moving toward the deadline spur action. We see that all the time around the NFL, and the Combine can help accelerate that action, I think. And whether it's meetings here, conversations that you have here, but it's clear in hearing from the Ravens that they're trying to find a way to keep Linderbaum.
Right.
And like that's a good starting point. Like the Ravens want to make him the highest paid center. And he has indicated over the course of the last year when he's been asked about it several times that he likes playing in Baltimore, would like to stay in Baltimore. So, like, you have a good foundation set there. But, of course, the money is going to be a big deciding factor.
It is. And, yes, I also think that it helps not only Tyler loving the organization and his teammates, that the Ravens still view themselves, I think correctly so, as a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah.
And last year did not go the way the Ravens planned. But still, with Lamar Jackson being the guy that Tyler Linderbaum's hiking the ball to, with Derrick Henry being the running back that he's blocking for, I think that he feels if he were to stay here, that the Ravens could get back to being the offensive team that they have been for most of his career here, one of the best in the NFL. So all the pieces are in place to make Tyler Linderbaum think that the Ravens are an attractive place to stay. The question is going to be, yes, does he feel that someone else makes him an offer that makes them more attractive to leave? I think the Ravens do, even though he's going to be highly covered and have a lot of chips that they can play to convince Tyler Linderbaum to stay. We'll just have to see if it's enough.
Well, the other big contract, there's a handful of big contract questions, but the other massive contract question for the Ravens is Lamar Jackson. And it's not a free agency situation, but he's got a huge cap number this year if nothing were to happen with his contract. Now, the Ravens have some mechanisms where they could adjust that, but the ideal scenario is to work out an extension, add years and add money to that deal. And Eric DeCosta was asked about that. Overall, he kept it private. He said, when we went through this process a few years ago, we agreed that we were going to keep it private, and we think that's the best way to go about this. As everyone knows, Lamar Jackson is his own agent, so there's not a lot of leaks happening as it relates to the contract negotiations between these two sides. And so keeping it private is the way that both of those parties have decided to operate. The one thing that he did say is he's confident about being able to get an extension done. And also he's had lots of conversations with Lamar about a variety of things over the course of the last month. Been really engaged as Ravens have gone through this process of finding a new head coach and building out a full coaching staff. Declan Doyle, a new offensive coordinator, met with him for over an hour during a Zoom call during the interview process. So there's been lots of conversations between Lamar and the Ravens on a variety of fronts. And it seems like the tide is moving in the direction of trying to get that extension done.
Right. Those communications is definitely open. And Steve Bisciotti said that, he would like to have it done before free agency, as Eric would, and I'm sure as Lamar would if they can work out something. So all those signs are good. And even though the Ravens aren't, saying much about the negotiations, Lamar Jackson, his best relationship in the NFL is with the Ravens. I mean, he plays for the Ravens. He's done a deal with Eric before. Mm-hmm. He wants to stay in Baltimore, and he also wants the Ravens to have flexibility to get players who can help them win a Super Bowl. So I think that the possibilities, Eric DeCosta did say he's confident that it can get done.
Yep.
So, again, the last time were in this situation, for months we heard about, is this going to happen with Lamar re-signing? It happened. This situation, to me, is not as sensitive because he's already under contract. He's not going anywhere. They're just trying to make the finances so that the Ravens can do more of the things they want to do. So it'll probably, like most of these things, come down to the wire.
Yeah. Most right. Negotiations and deals
They do. It's great when the Ravens have done a really good job re-signing their own players over the years, but every player you want to get the situation cleared up with, it usually doesn't happen like that. It's often at the very last minute. So I think in another week or two, we'll know the answer to some of these questions. But until that happens, we have to be patient. Don't have to be, but it behooves you to be patient because usually these things do come down to the last minute.
Yeah, he also made the point that he doesn't necessarily view the Lamar contract extension as like the big domino to fall, then everything else falls in place after that. There's a lot of things that are happening all simultaneously. We already talked about Linderbaum. Lamar's happening. The contract negotiations are happening. And then another one is Isaiah Likely. And this has been one that there's been more chatter about this, I would say, over the course of the last week, as Isaiah Likely's done some interviews. Right. Lamar Jackson tweeted this week in response, or today in response to a tweet from Bleacher Report about what team Isaiah Likely is going to be on next year, that Lamar indicated he wants it to be the Ravens. So obviously Lamar would like to have Isaiah Likely back, which is not a surprise. Those two guys are really close. And so, I asked Eric about the possibility of bringing back Likely, knowing they already did a deal with Mark Andrews last year and a contract extension with him. DeCosta said it's definitely a possibility of retaining Likely. It's not like, okay, we already did Andrews, the door has closed on Isaiah Likely. That's not the way the Ravens are looking at it. Now, will the two sides be able to agree on a deal? We'll see, but DeCosta said it's definitely a possibility that the Ravens could bring him back and keep this, tight end group kind of intact.
Yeah, I'm sure they would love to. I mean, you think about the last catch that Likely made last year, the fourth quarter against the Steelers. I mean, yes, that's the type of play that he has the potential to continue to make as his year goes by. I think Likely's best years are in front of him. Mm-hmm. And returning him to the Ravens offense with Lamar that he already has chemistry with, and then Declan Doyle, the new spin he's going to put on the Ravens offense, it'd be another weapon, be intriguing to have. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, it is encouraging to hear from Eric that, no, he doesn't think the door is closed, and that, yes, if he were to come back, then the Ravens once again would have one of the strongest tight ends rooms in the league with he and Mark Andrews at the top.
Yeah, I mean, Eric also talked about Andrews and how they feel really good about that contract and what they're going to be able to get out of Andrews this year and beyond, and the playmaker that he's going to be for this offense. Likely projecting that contract is tough because statistically it was a down year for him. He missed a good portion of the early part of the season with that foot injury, working his way back, then kind of had to get reacclimated in the offense. So production-wise last year, he didn't have a big season. But he's got this enormous talent and potential, and so is it a shorter-term contract to then try to cash in later? It's just hard for me to see what that deal ends up looking like with the Ravens or elsewhere. But to the point that we're making, the door is not closed on him returning to the Ravens, and that is also, that's an exciting possibility of potentially getting him back in Baltimore. Some other notes, contract-wise, DeCosta was asked specifically about Marlon Humphrey, and he indicated that the expectation is that Marlon Humphrey is going to be on the team this year. He is under contract, but the question was about whether he expects Marlon to be on the team this year. That has been something that's been floated out there, that maybe he wouldn't be on the team or they can move in a different direction or cut him. But DeCosta said the expectation is that Marlon Humphrey is going to be on this team.
Right. He said he loves Marlon Humphrey.
Yeah.
And Marlon Humphrey has played his entire career in Baltimore. He knows he didn't have his best season last year. Marlon Humphrey's always been a prideful player, gives you everything he's got. And, yeah, I feel that Marlon Humphrey is going to have a good year next season. I really believe that. I think that, over the last couple of years, he's definitely, to me, done a great job of taking care of his body. He's dropped some pounds. He looks so cut up. And last year, coming to training camp, it was clear when you laid eyes on him how much work he had put into the offseason. And, yeah, Marlon Humphrey, he's been here 2016. Yes, the only thing left for him to do now is to win a Super Bowl. He's in the same mix as a Ronnie Stanley, a Lamar Jackson, a Mark Andrews, Patrick Ricard. Those guys who have been the core of the Ravens for the last 8 years or more still feel like they have unfinished business. So, yeah, I wasn't surprised to hear Eric say that Marlon is going to be a part of things. And I do think he's going to play better than he did last year. And, yes, the Ravens, even with Marlon coming back, I think they're still going to be looking to add corner depth. But, yes, having him as a versatile guy who can do more than just one thing as part of the secondary still, to me, brings great value to their secondary.
Yeah, Jesse Minter also talked about the Ravens secondary, talked about how he likes the pieces that the Ravens have in place there and is excited to work with that group. Marlon obviously being a big part of that. Another big part of that is Nate Wiggins, who's going into his third season. Jesse said that when he was coming out in the draft, during the evaluation process when Jesse was in Los Angeles, he was really high on Wiggins, was one of his favorite players coming out of the draft, and that he thinks there's even a higher ceiling to his game and is really excited to see what he can do. And so this is something we've heard before. Wiggins has enormous potential, and he's flashed that at times. And I think that the next step for him in his progression, I think he took a step from year 1 to year 2. I think it's just becoming even more consistent on a play-in and play-out basis, game in, game-out basis. And I think that he has locked down top corner in the league type potential. Like, that's the ability that he has. And in working with Jesse and this new defensive coaching staff, I think that they're going to bring out the best in him.
Yeah, I definitely agree that he's got all types of potential. He's also got swag and, an attitude. You know, an attitude of like, you can't shake me. I can lock you down, box you up, as he would say.
Right.
That, to me, I love that type of attitude in defensive players. You still have to go out there and do the job. But, yes, having a young player like that in the secondary, Marlon, a tough guy, Kyle Hamilton can do it all. Malachi Starks is another guy in the secondary who I think still, obviously, after year 1, has growth potential. So Jesse has a lot of pieces to work with. And his strength as a coach on the defensive side of the ball, I think, is going to be good for a lot of these young players that the Ravens have who are still ascending. Nate Wiggins is definitely one of them. And, his ceiling, I think, is up here.
Yeah.
It's just a question of whether he makes that climb.
Right. And one other point in hearing from DeCosta and Jesse today is we did get an update. Well, not an update. We did get questions about Nnamdi Madubuike. And this is one of the big questions that's hanging over this team right now, is his status, his future. Missed the majority of last season. The Ravens have not indicated at any point since that injury how long-term this is going to be. Is he going to play this year? Is he not? What does the future look like? There's been no update on this front. There's been some tweets from Madubuike that some have speculated. He's tweeted things about good news, but is that related to football? Is it not? Nobody knows. He has not spoken publicly since his injury last year. So DeCosta said that there's no update on that front. There's no timeline on providing an update on that. Jesse Minter said that he has talked with Madubuike, that he's been in the building and had conversations with him. He's keeping those conversations private. So the dialogue is still there between Madubuike and the Ravens, certainly, but it's unclear, at least publicly, what his future is and when they will make any kind of decision or announcement on that front.
Yeah, it's pretty clear that the information on Nnamdi is going to come from Nnamdi. Mm-hmm. No one, has spoken for him, and until we hear from him, that's probably going to be the next update we get. But like all these situations, we're all hoping for the best for him, but the Ravens have a plan B, C, D, and E. Mm-hmm. And even with Nnamdi coming back after missing almost all of last year, if that were to be the case, that would not change, in my mind, the Ravens' desire to strengthen the defensive line. It's a group that you always want to have depth there, and that's been the Ravens' style. So, yes, we saw Travis Jones come on a lot last year, as Eric mentioned. He's a piece they can build around. But, yes, whether Nnamdi were to be part of the group or not, this draft, I believe they're going to be looking for defensive tackle help. I believe that they are going to draft at least one defensive tackle. And, yes, it's a position where Jesse Minter mentioned the teams that won the last 2 Super Bowls, the Seattle Seahawks, Philadelphia Eagles, they could dominate you on both sides of the line. If the Ravens join that group where they have a dominant defensive line and a dominant offensive line, any team that can do that is usually a team that can contend for Super Bowl. So that, to me, Nnamdi's situation, yes, is a separate item, but I believe in this draft, over the next few days out here, the Ravens are going to be looking closely at some players who can help them build that defensive front depth.
Yeah, so let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about building in the trenches and how the Ravens want to address that area of the roster this offseason. You're listening to the Lounge Podcast. We are coming to you from the SeatGeek studio. We want to mention our partners at DraftKings Sportsbook. They are an official sports betting partner of the Baltimore Ravens. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. So we're talking about the trenches, and you mentioned it right before break that that's an area that the Ravens want to address. And in hearing both from Jesse Minter and Eric DeCosta, they're going to invest there this offseason, whether that's in the draft, whether that happens in free agency. DeCosta said we've always been a team that has believed in building through the trenches. Obviously, the injury to Madubuike last year hurt them on the defensive front, but it's clear that is going to be a priority. At the same time, the Ravens like some of the pieces on the offense, specifically on the offensive side of the ball, that they drafted last year. Like they drafted Emory Jones. He played a little bit last season, but they're excited about his potential as a third-round pick to come in and compete for a starting job. Carson Vincent was a developmental prospect who the Ravens drafted last season, and so he's coming along. So they have, and then of course Ronnie Stanley, Tyler Linderbaum, we already talked about, Roger Rosengarten, who's going into his third season. So they've got some pieces in place, but I really do believe that we're going to see an investment in those trenches on both sides of the ball through the draft, free agency, trade market, all the above.
Right. I mean, what happens during free agency is going to affect their approach to how they will attack the draft.
Yeah.
I think that the Ravens will be looking on the free agent market for players who can help them in the trenches. The Tyler Linderbaum situation is obviously going to affect what they do on the offensive line. But, yes, they have some pieces now. Rosengarten, for sure. Ronnie Stanley on the other side. The tackle position, they feel good about that. It's the interior offensive line that, yes, I mean, if Linderbaum comes back, great. But I still feel that, there are a lot of mock drafts are linking them to Penn State's guard, Vega Ione at number 14. He might be a plug-and-play guard that the Ravens decide to put in if he's available. They haven't drafted a guard. I believe 2007 maybe is the last time they drafted a guard in the first round. So it's been a long time. Yes, I believe it was Ben Grubbs.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it has been a long time. It wouldn't be the traditional move for the Ravens to draft a guard in round one. But if he's a plug-and-play guard, I think this year – could be a great fit for what they're trying to do. So, yes, the trenches, that has been the Ravens' philosophy. Last year, the line did not play as well as the Ravens expected, the offensive line. It is a position I think that they need to address, and they will.
Yeah, they weren't able to control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball to the level that they want. And getting after the passer it's all related. Pass rush, that's trenches as well. That's a huge focus for this team. The pass rush wasn't as good as they needed it to be last season. They need to put more pressure on the quarterback, and so that's going to be an area that the Ravens look to address. Eric DeCosta talked about using draft picks to address the pass rush. He's got 11 draft picks. The Ravens plan to use some of those picks on pass rush players this year. So that is a focus for this team, and as Jesse pointed out, look at the Super Bowl. Seattle controlled the line of scrimmage this year. Go back to last year's Super Bowl. Philadelphia controlled the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball against the Chiefs and won that game. Like, I know it's exciting to look at quarterbacks and receivers and skill position players. Like, that's fun, and that's part of what makes the league so great. But the core philosophy of building up your lines on both sides that's unchanged. That's timeless. And I think the Ravens will look to do that this offseason. A couple other points just in hearing from other coaches and GMs here today. One of them that stood out to me was Ben Johnson. Asked him about Declan Doyle and what the Ravens are getting in him. And he made the point, he said, look, Declan's a phenomenal coach. And he even admitted that he was he was disappointed that they didn't get more time with him in Chicago, and that he felt like they might have had couple more years together, but the Ravens came calling, and then he got this opportunity to go to Baltimore and be the play caller there, and so he was disappointed that they lost him after just one season. He could not have been more glowing in his praise of Declan Doyle, which gets me excited to hear from Ben Johnson, one of the best offensive minds in the game, that his offensive coordinator from last year, Doyle, who's now in Baltimore, he had nothing but good things to say.
Yes, it's very easy to find someone to say great things about Declan Doyle. And that's very impressive for someone who, even though he's been in the business 8 years, as he's quick to point out, he hasn't even reached 30 years old yet. So I don't think him being in his first year as a play caller is going to be an issue for him. But the way that he left Chicago after 1 year and the coaching changes around the NFL is just another reminder of why it is so hard to be successful year after year. If you're a good team, then your coaching staff is probably going to change. That's just the way it is. And every year is an entity of its own. So I think Jesse Minter has done a great job of putting together his staff the first year of going to the head coach, because we know how much the staff is going to be different than last year. It's going to be fascinating to watch. You know, a coach staying with the Ravens 18 years, John Harbaugh, that's a rarity in the NFL.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the Ravens are going through what a lot of teams go through much more often. And I think that, yes, so far it's off to a great start. You know, Anthony Weaver's defensive coordinator, Declan Doyle, Anthony Levine, the coordinators that Jesse has put in place, and then the staffs on both sides of football look great on paper, and I think the players are eager to work with them. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what Declan Doyle does. Right now, there's more focus on what are the chess pieces he's going to have to work with, you know, especially up front on the offensive line. And that is important. I mean, all these coaches are great, but you also need players. It's a players' league. So it'll be interesting. But, yeah, Declan Doyle I thought was a interesting and good choice by Jesse Minter. And then, yes, it seems like everyone you talk to about Declan only reinforces that feeling.
Everyone you talk to here has great things to say about Jesse Minter, about Declan Doyle, about the staff overall. And it's coming from GMs and head coaches like Ben Johnson, Joe Ortiz, the GM out in L.A., of course, was in Baltimore for a long time, 26 years, had great things to say about Jesse Minter out there, was with him in Baltimore as well. Talked to Daniel Jeremiah, had great things to say about this coaching staff. So there is real, around the league, the sense that we're getting out here. That's one of the things that's great about the Combine is everybody's in one place. You can talk to all these different people. The sense that I'm getting is that the league is looking at the staff that has been built in Baltimore, and there's a lot of excitement and interest and intrigue about what this group is going to be able to do. And I think Ravens fans should feel really confident based on everything that I'm hearing from folks here at the Combine that this is going to be a great coaching staff that Jesse Minter has assembled.
Right, and it's not surprising. I mean, the Ravens are viewed by the people here as one of the, you know, ace organizations in football, really in sports. And I don't think people are surprised that even a decision was made to move on from John Harbaugh, that the Ravens definitely are executing that plan and showing a vision of what they want to do moving forward. So, yeah, it's a sign again of an organization that has a vision for even when there's change for what they want. And Jesse Minter, I do think it is an advantage for him that he's been a part of Ravens organization before. He knows how Eric DeCosta thinks. They had a relationship before, and now that relationship is going to grow even more. Jesse, I think, has been good putting together a staff with some guys that he knows and some other coaches who he doesn't know, but was so impressed with their resume and personality that he felt they would bring the right mix to Baltimore. So, yeah, I think Jesse could have just brought in as many people as he felt comfortable with as he wanted to that he could get. But instead, I think he took a really broad view about who are the best coaches out there and can I get them. And so I think he did a really good job with that. I'm sure with input from Eric and Ozzie and other people. There's also been a lot of talk with the Ravens too, Jesse and Eric, about having the players involved with interviews of the coaching staff. I think that's good. I think the players are feeling like they're a part of things and that their strengths and their desires as far as what they see moving forward that will help the Ravens get to a Super Bowl and win it are being considered. So, yeah, people have talked a lot, obviously, about the relationship between Declan Doyle and Lamar. Well, they've already talked a lot. And Lamar was involved in the process when they decided to hire Declan Doyle. I think all those are pluses. And then this summer, spring and summer, they'll finally get a chance to work together. Hopefully that will make it a lot smoother in year one with a new coaching staff, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, new special teams coach, that it won't seem like a transition year. That it'll seem like when they take the field that they've been together for a long time. That's the goal.
That's the goal. That's the hope. And we'll be here in Indianapolis covering everything over the course of this week at the Combine. Lots of good stuff still coming your way. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Also, check out all of the content that we're posting on the Ravens app, website. Cliff's going to be writing things up over the course of the next few days. So check out all of his articles. And again, subscribe to the Ravens Press Pass podcast as well. We've got those full press conferences with Jesse and Eric posted in their entirety if you want to go and watch and listen to those. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we'll talk with you again soon.